Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Mike Peterson, and I'm founder of Science and Design. And we have yet another exciting hour ahead of us to learn about a software that's relatively new to the design industry, but has been around since I think maybe 2010, and is pretty heavily used in the packaged goods and the website design industry. Now, before I introduce Byron, I want to make a few announcements, if you'll allow me. Uh, we're going to have a pretty exciting first half of the year at Science and Design, and you're all invited to join us. On March 19th, our next webinar, Jennifer Smiga, who is the principal at Ultraviolet Digital Marketing Agency, will be our guest on the webinar talking about marketing for discoverability, how to get found as a science-based designer. Jennifer is a SEO specialist and has been working with me now for the last 4 or 5 months on my social media program. Helped us turn out a lot of people for our October event, and is turning out already more and more people for the webinars that we're doing. So that's March 19th, same time, noon Eastern. On April 16th, we begin the first of a three-part series that's very, very exciting. I'll be doing the webinar on April 16th, and it will be an introduction to neuroaesthetics. For those of you that have been following Science and Design, it'll make for a great refresher for you. But for those of you who will be attending the keynote presentation on April 26th at High Point Market, it'll give you an awful lot of great information so that you'll be able to better understand what we'll be talking about during that presentation at Market. So that's April 16th. It's a beginning course on Introduction to Neuroaesthetics. Now, the big thing, and if you're getting my newsletter, you already know, on April 26th, we are so excited that the High Point Marketing Authority has asked us to deliver the keynote presentation at High Point Market on Sunday at 3 o'clock of market. It's a pretty interesting presentation because what we'll be doing is building and designing a virtual show house, and all of the design elements in the show house will be filtered through the lens of neuroaesthetics and biophilic design. We have a total of 6 designers who will be filling the rooms. Kat Blue out of Atlanta, Erica McLean out of Dallas, Marie Cloud out of Charlotte, Angela Harris out of Denver, Gabrielle Kozakju out of Toronto, and Michelle George out of Charlotte again. And she's a principal at the BSB Architecture Company that's nationwide. And she'll be helping us with the architectural details. Now, following the keynote, because I'm pretty sure that there's going to be an awful lot of interest. We are planning for a full day deep dive into the study of neuroaesthetics, and that will be on May 14th. Jennifer Walsh, who is a strategic advisor to the Penn Center for Neuroaesthetics, and she's a strategic advisor also for the Brain Health Initiative at Harvard. Don Ruggles will be there. We have a panel of designers who have already taken their neuroaesthetics knowledge into new areas of business for them. So we want to share with you what you can be doing with this knowledge. So it's going to be a full day, and we're filling out the day now, and you'll be able to see more on Eventbrite when you click. Now, the last announcement I have is if you haven't seen it yet, take a moment and go to the scienceanddesign.com website and turn to the brand new neuroaesthetics page. It is pretty much everything you might need to know about neuroaesthetics. And so it's pretty exciting. We've been working on it for the last 3 months. It's exhaustive in its content. So take a look and feel free to borrow phrases, to use the words and knowledge on your own websites. That's what it's there for, to help you communicate more effectively. Okay, so let me go to an introduction of Byron. So we're talking about Byron Trotter here now, and he's the creative design director and manager of advanced design at 3M. And as a global design leader at 3M, Byron Trotter partners with multiple company-wide business leadership teams to set design direction, influence major design strategies, and advise on design processes. Now, during his career as an industrial designer, he developed numerous high-performance products ranging from medical devices to air and water filtration, lighting, and consumer goods. Byron earned his degree in industrial design at the University of Wisconsin and also studied at the University of Applied Sciences and Arts in Germany. Now, I'm going to hold off on Byron just for a minute because what I want to do is get out of this field. And what I'd like to do is share my screen for just 2 slides. Could we all mute ourselves, please? We're picking up some conversation. Can we please mute ourselves? All right. All right. What I want to do is show you 2 slides, and hopefully you're seeing my full screen now. These 2 slides will help set up what Byron's going to be talking about in his presentation. This is, for those of you that have seen my basic presentation, this is a slide from that presentation. Eric Kandel is a Nobel Prize winner, neuroscientist in physiology. And he says 95% of brain activity is beyond our conscious awareness. All of our conscious thoughts and actions are unconscious first. Now think about that. I'm going to read that second sentence again. All of our conscious thoughts and actions are unconscious first. Essentially, we're skating through life. We could live an entire life without a conscious thought. But now, why do I bring that up? Well, we all have about 3 seconds, roughly 3 seconds, when our unconscious mind is in control. So the question becomes, you want to attract attention. Your work wants to attract attention. Are you designing for the unconscious mind, the subliminal brain? Now, I'm going to show you a slide. The next slide has 3 geometric shapes on it. And I'm doing this so that you can actually experience the unconscious mind. And then I'll turn it over to Byron. So be aware of what you see when you see these 3 geometric shapes. Now you see 3 shapes, but you see something more, don't you? You see facial structure. And you didn't have to think about it. Immediately, in the first millisecond, you were experiencing, your unconscious mind was in control and was talking to you. So with that, let me get out of my share and turn it over to Byron. And Byron, it's all yours. Unmute yourself and let's have fun.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Just to double check, how do I share my screen?
You should have a share button, a green button on the bottom of the screen.
Gotcha. There we go. Didn't see it at first. Thank you. Okay. Are you able to see my screen now?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
There you go. I think we're getting it now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, thanks everyone for calling in today. I hope you get something from this. If not, you're definitely welcome to email me and ask more questions. I'm really excited about what design and science can do together. I've been at 3M for longer than I imagined I would, but I really came here for that same reason where I think design is a powerful source of energy and healing powers, lots of different things that we can do with design. And then when you look at science, it's a measurable, data-driven kind of focus. And so integrating those two together has been something that's really been, breakthrough for me, inspiring for the company. And I think there's a lot of future things coming still yet in regards to science. I don't know, and I'm not going to go through all of this, so don't worry about the death by PowerPoint thing. But if anyone doesn't know who 3M is, we are a global company. We have manufacturing in 35 countries, all these kind of things, over 100,000 patents. We invented the Post-it note. We invented Scotch tape. We invented sandpaper, all these things. And then we invented this software. So we're constantly looking at how can we impact the human existence and make it better for all of us. And what one of the questions is, why would 3M develop this software, especially when what I think is really funny is like everyone's talking about AI and all these things, and this software not developed by me, but this software was developed over 15 years ago. So we typically are about a decade ahead of times. But initially, I think the focus was from our scientist team was how do we prove that the reflective qualities of all the signs that we sell and make globally are better than the generic ones. And so they developed the software to measure how the human eye perceives things, and they continue to expand upon it. And as Mike was saying, that it comes down to obviously the brightness of things and how you see them physically, but it also is a subconscious thing, like Mike said. And I think we all kind of knew that already. You know, when we think about design, we know that it's all about presentation, right? It's like setting up a meal. That whole experience, the sound, the smells, everything around you has an impact, and we don't always realize it. And so this software focuses on that first 3 to 5 seconds where you're not really consciously thinking about it, but it helps measure that moment before your opinion starts to kick in and go further with the information. This won't surprise anybody, but you know, back in the year 2000, 12 seconds was the time it took to capture attention. It's now obviously nanoseconds even, and it's much faster than that. So that continues to become an important element of how to measure science and data. This software is built on these foundational pillars. It's the software focuses on edges. It focuses on intensity, so we can think of that as lighting and contrast, juxtaposition of materials, the red-green contrast, the blue-yellow contrast, and even more specifically, faces. Imagine if you see a lot of the renders of people's buildings and entryways, they have some people present there, and I think that helps make it a little more human and brings the viewer in to experience the space. What people don't realize, and I think this is where we tend to deliver like really well as designers, is we help enable people to get to a destination that they want to get to or that they hope to get to. But ultimately, that takes somebody like yourselves. It takes smart people to really understand, really listen, and really kind of not just take what they say they want, but also imagine what they may not know that they want. And so that's another detail. This is a quick example of how the science of this software works. So I'm supposed to ask you, okay, find the blue O. And as soon as you find it, you see it, you raise your hand. 1 second, guys. Excuse me. The next thing is to find the blue O here. And again, it's still pretty easy, slightly harder perhaps. The next one is to find the blue O here, a little bit harder. And there's actually 2 blue O's, just as a trick scenario here, right there and right there. So this demonstrates the science behind how our eyes look and perceive things, and how those visual signals are relayed to our retinas, to our brain stems, and help kind of restitch those images together. So in reality, whenever we're looking at something, there's a pretty narrow cone of actual vision and comprehension, and our brain just kind of weaves everything else together in the background. This is an example of what you might see. So let's say we're looking at this villa and we say, oh, look at those flowers. What our brain is technically seeing is that small of a focus. You can kind of see in your peripheral vision the other colors, the other shapes, but depending on where your eye is focusing, whether it's on the chair or other items, you're seeing most specifically that space, and then you're kind of, all those other things are put together by your brain. So 3M visual science to me is all of these things and more, and it really kind of comes down to what your your goals are as a business leader, but maybe your customers' goals as well. The software is used from analyzing packaging on a shelf in the store space to buildings and large lobbies. It's that first glance. How do we, for example, how do we get attention in the right areas of a space? Especially if it's a really large space, you might want to emphasize exits or the front lobby desk where people can go to get help. So these are all kind of ways that this software works to analyze what a human would see, takes the opinion out of it completely. And this has been proven with data and lots of different independent studies that what the software tells you at the end of your analyzation is about 92% accurate, which I think is pretty accurate in my opinion. Again, that first knee-jerk reaction is what we're talking about. The other levels kind of take further time to absorb the information and maybe even ask questions of the presenter. But that noticing and that engaging, that subconscious, emotional, non-emotional, I guess, observation is what we're talking about. So what we can do, which is great, is, again, it depends on what your goals and your focus is, but you can take two concepts of an interior space, measure them side by side, and if someone says, I really want people to focus on the view out the window, I mean, it's just an amazing view, lots of nature out there. We want to bring the biophilia in from the outdoors. It's how do you get people, can you direct traffic to get them to go to certain destinations? And then you can compare those two and then revise and then test again. I think, some people might say, well, I don't really want software to control how I design my things. True. What it also does is, if you have a client, for example, that might be a little headstrong, and I'm guessing you all have been there, they have sometimes a decision made in their mind, like this is the answer. This scientific measurement tool helps take that issue out of the equation and makes it more proven that the solutions you're providing have been measured and they are the right solution for them to consider. This is what our site looks like. You just type in 3M and then VAS, VAS, Visual Attention Science, and it'll take you through everything. As you can see, it's got plugins for Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and others. So you can create those visuals directly in your software. Once you install the little attachment, it can kind of just go straight to the site and analyze things directly within the app. This is what you'll see once you do get into the site. Again, this is for different levels of scale. So you might imagine like a large building, you might want to go to different scale than perhaps just a vision of a front desk. So I created two scenarios for us. This is a skateboarding store, and again, let's put the cool factor, hipster stuff on the side, but let's pretend that this is a national chain of stores, and they really want to understand how, besides the emotional side, how do people perceive this? Is this going to deliver a call to action and a transactional experience? When you think of retail, that is obviously part of the game. So the aesthetics clearly set the stage, but does the person understand what is being sold, who's the company, and how do they go from there? So here's another example I created. This one looks more attention getting, but it's almost a kind of an issue where the volume might be so loud that everything is loud. And again, you'll see the difference in this analyzation here. So I analyzed both of these pictures ahead of time. They're both kind of the same perspective, doors in the same place. And then this is the measurements that you get from VAS, which is saying, the human eye most likely is going to go here, then here, then here. And when you do that, that's helpful. So like, for example, on the left side, it is helpful that the customer in this sense is viewing the merchandise outside of the store. And so that this kind of that gateway to come into the store. So you see the items, you go, oh, I like that. I might go in and see what else there is. Whereas this other store, super cool looking, but your attention is not really where you want it to be. I mean, maybe you kind of see the sign in the window. Hopefully, if not, you're sleeping. But it's interesting to show that sometimes less is more, right? And that's something I think we've all known for a while. The way that the software works is it does 5 different formulas of analysis. It shows you, like, from a heat map where the eyeball will look, which is this example. Before this one is more of like a scientific data measurement where it says, statistically speaking, you're going to hit the red part is the most focused area, and then the 2 yellows are there. And those numbers change and go up and down depending on the visual that is being shared at the time. So again, there's that, and then this is also the gaze sequence. So, for example, you may have a client that says, I want them to see the store, but I really, really want them to land on the signage where our logo is, so that when they leave, if they didn't buy something, they know where to go online to get the items. And so this is a really helpful way to look at, first they'll look here, then they'll look here, then they tend to go down here, and then they'll land on the sign, right? And so this is kind of another way to assess how your space is maybe serving your client's needs. I think when you think about wayfinding, the audiences that you may be creating for, it really does help, because if there's certain things that, like, this is a medical office, obviously the one on the left doesn't feel so great. I mean, it has some plants, which is nice, but if it's a specialty area for children, you kind of want to take their attention off of the awkwardness of maybe being there for getting a shot or something like that. So this can prove again where, okay, before we added any graphics or any visuals, the physical footprint is still identical, but once we add those visuals, the human's attention goes to the wall and kind of helps them go to that imaginary place where they kind of takes their attention off of it and helps them think that, this is something I can engage with, and it takes my mind off of it. Here's another example. So this is a retail situation. You might want to call attention to something on sale. You might want to talk about a certain artist that is, creating some of the items on the shelf, and so you want to see where does the human eye go? Is this a better store design, or is this a better store design? And so again, I took them both. I put them into Vaz, and again, it depends on where your focus is. But the image on the left, right? You can tell that circle on the wall, that graphic there, is definitely very attention getting. There's clearly more contrast. The eye is getting pulled up to the top left. And then on the right, you can see that as well, like where it's, maybe there's that message on the purchasing counter down below. And if that is important, then you definitely want to increase that color contrast with the yellow versus the image on the left. So that is another way to look at it. What you also notice is that we mentioned earlier that contrast is kind of a big factor in how the human mind pays attention to things. So those windows on the left, the black beams and the white windows, very high contrast. And so even though in our mind we're like, oh, it's just a window, well, we love looking at windows, actually, and the fact that there's high contrast only makes it more so. So again, if you did, let's say, have all the graphics and the visuals and the wallpaper or things that you wanted in place, but the attention is still going to the windows, perhaps we need some curtains or something of that nature. So these are all factors to help you make better decisions and enable good results. So here's the gaze sequence again. So first, they're saying on the left, this counter, even though very subtle colors, the eye goes there first, and then it goes to the circle, then it comes back to the register again. So that is another interesting thing. This is a space where we can kind of compare. There's the exact same footprint, exact same design, physically speaking, but the theme is different and the colors are different. And so how much impact does the surface finish and the aesthetics of a room have? Again, if this is a coffee shop where you want people to come and relax, this is probably where you want to go. If there's a sponsorship by a soda brand or a liquor brand and they pay for the renovation, but they also require that you put that there, you can prove to them that says, hey, look, I can show you that even though it's kind of a retro graphic and all these other things, people will look more at the concept on the right because of the visual attention that is pulling our eye there. And the gaze sequence as well. So this is, another example. So Ann Sussman is a friend of Mike's as well, and she teaches at Boston Architecture Center College in Boston. And so this was a study that her class did where you have a bus stop, people, the ridership was down, and they really kind of didn't understand. It wasn't necessarily just about safety. It was also about like nobody wants to hang out there. The way that you can get people to experience the urban living and all of those different factors is by creating beauty around them. And this is a nice example where when you see those two examples side by side, everybody of course does err on the side of beauty and they prefer to have that as well. These are the kind of the cliff notes. So again, depending on what your goals are, know the hierarchy. You might want to even just write them down and then continue to analyze them as the concept evolves. Contrast is if having people go, look to a certain zone of the space, contrast is a big one, obviously. And then images of people or people themselves being there, if that's where they're all hanging out, that's a good factor. And then framing, how all these things come together. It's almost like a real picture frame. Can you bring people's attention here, and then they go further and further into the visual. Again, this is the website. This is another kind of example that I think is interesting. That this study was done about. This example is from the Duomo, right? So on the top left image of the buildings in blue, the Duomo is there, and then as you can see to the right, it gradually becomes more and more abstract. One could argue that the contrast, the focal points, the textures, the lighting, if people need to know where the entrance is or need to even like pay attention to a building, it does matter. So when you have a clean building like the item on the top right, it's cool. It's it's modern and minimal, but maybe if it's a bus station or a retail environment, things of that nature, it's not getting attention. I mean, clearly the people that created and designed this church a long time ago knew what they were doing. This is ironically very intentional, and so it is successful because it's scientifically proven to have more beauty and details that pull the viewer in further.
Byron, if I can interrupt just for a second,
Yeah, please.
It's also why architects today are realizing that the urban scapes around the country, with our plate glass windows on all of those buildings, are so unhealthy and unattractive, and lacking the detail and ornamentation that we find in nature, frankly, and that prior to about 100 years ago pretty much dominated architectural styling. So it's a really interesting development in our industry, both architecture and interior design. I didn't mean to step on your word, Byron, but
No,
the other
I'm
thing
so
I
glad
wanted
you
to
said
ask
that.
you, did you mention the phrase visual spell check?
I may have, if I didn't, it is definitely that. And again, I think what I've noticed is that it really does reinforce
Hmm.
the end result you have in mind. If it's important to you, this software gets you to that place and helps you until you feel like the concept is getting refined more and more. It really does that, and it's so helpful for everyone.
All right,
Thanks, Mike.
Byron, if that's it for you, if you can get out of your screen share, I'd like to share a couple more slides.
I have a few more real quick, if you
Okay,
don't
go ahead.
mind.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, to your point, that was actually you read my mind, Mike. And let's imagine you get a concept like or a project like this where Mike was just talking the building, nothing wrong with it necessarily, a little bland, very basic, definitely not as awesome as the Duomo, right? But how can we also, if you get brought into a project where things are kind of already locked and you're yet to bring more emotion and experience, biophilia, things like that, heal people, there are other mechanisms to do that. So this is kind of one of those ways where um, Interface, the flooring company, this is one of their headquarters downtown, I think in Atlanta, and essentially it is a box, it is a glass box, but they celebrate the purpose and intent of their company on the facade itself. They're all about nature, cradle to cradle development, and so the visuals of the natures and trees and everything on that is literally reflected on the building itself. When you look at the buildings behind, they just look super, like a computer made them almost. And I think this is again another way that visuals you can measure. It was a bad space before. We created this really beautiful storytelling kind of moment where people can kind of reflect upon this company is so cool. They're always thinking in this way. And this is kind of just one of those many ways to achieve that. Um, just real quick, Mike, if you don't mind, we have
Yeah.
many products in the space, graphics, replicated surfaces of wood, stone, everything. Our solutions provide all of those for you. If you have any needs, feel free to take a picture of this QR code. In short, we have films that are color cast films. So what's important about that is that if you have a brand, a bank, for example, they have a specific red they want to hit, we literally put the pigment inside of the product. So it's not printed on top, it's in the product. So as things age or get abused, that color remains strong in there. We put all those high visibility signs that you see on the side of the highway that are visible from miles away. That is technology from 3M. The architectural finishes I just mentioned in the middle, and then of course large scale digital printing. Like that is such a great way to kind of pull people into the space and go further. And on the right is our building window film. So if you have eco goals, right, we can reduce the pull of energy on the HVAC systems by putting our films on the windows, rejecting certain UV lights, and helping the building have a smarter ecological footprint. That this is my email here is at the very bottom. If you have questions for the scientists, feel free to email the emails above. And thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Byron. Can you go back to the interface slide just for a moment? I want to mention something to Jason Phillips. I know he's on
Got
the
it.
call. The uh, the interface, yeah, that's it. Yeah, Jason. Every time I drive into High Point from the Martin Luther King direction on that street, I look at all of the blank walls of all of the buildings. And it makes me just wonder if there's not something else that we as an industry can do to make all of those big, huge buildings and all those blank walls just a little more attractive. And I know you're an influence in High Point, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but it's just something that hits me every time I go into High Point. Anyway, thank you, Byron. If you can get out of your share, and I'll go back
You
into
got it.
mine.
You got it.
All right.
Just one moment, please.
Okay. I want to show you a couple of examples that an interior designer that I work with in Aventura, Florida, actually how she uses the VAS software. This is just a reminder of what catches our attention: edges, color contrast, color intensity, and faces. And I remind us of that because of what I'm going to show you. Here's an ad that I produced for Sarah Z Design in Aventura. And she's big into biophilic kind of design, but a contemporary type of biophilic design. And when our team designed this ad, we loved it. We liked everything, the ingredients on the left, the finished project on the right. And so we were ready to send it to the publisher, the magazine publisher. And I said, let's run it through VAS and make sure we're on target. And so here's what happened. And we like this. The logo was getting attention, the tagline was getting attention, and the body of the ad was getting attention. So we went ahead and ran it. So we were feeling pretty sure about ourselves and feeling pretty cocky, frankly, and we produced a two-page version of that ad for magazines. And so we were all set to just send it to the publisher. And again, at the last minute, I said, wait a minute, let's just be sure. This is the visual spell checking that Byron was talking about. So I said, let's run it through VAS and let's be sure. And you know what? Uh-oh. And if you know anything about magazine publishing, you know that the right-hand page is the page that gets seen before the left-hand page. And what was really interesting about this is that the ingredients of the ad were getting attention, but the actual project was not. So we scrapped this ad and went back to the discipline of VAS and thought in terms of edges and color contrast and faces. And we created this ad. There's Sarah, her headshot. And the way to read this, of course, is that there's a 98% chance that Sarah's headshot will be seen in the first 3 or 4 seconds. All of the percentages, by the way, add up to more than 100% because our eyes are always darting around. But look at the edges, look at the color intensity, and look at the color contrast. Okay, now I want to show you something that I did a year ago at the flooring convention in Las Vegas. I had a room full of 60 flooring retailers. And these guys love showing their product. And so I took one of their ads, I took the logo off of it, and I showed them this. Now that you're all experts in VAS technology and software, what do you think is going to happen here? Does anybody see a face or facial structure? That's the value of VAS. And I love the idea that it can corroborate your designs. I'm going to stop the share now. I love the idea that it can corroborate your designs and give you a sense of assurance. I like what Byron said, that if you have that tough customer and you can add a scientific substantiation to what you're explaining to them, love it. So I want to open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions for Byron or for me? Let me get down here into the chat. Can you please share more regarding multiple user looking at the same pictures via VAS? That's from Sonia.
Sonia, that is a great question. I think from my standpoint, I think that is potentially an issue, right? I mean, the data that the app is sharing to you is an average of many different test studies that we've done, and so it could vary from person to person. But again, that when we were looking at the triangle upside down, it's the subconscious that really people are, or that initial focal point. It's not necessarily do they think it's beautiful or not. It's where do they look and where's their attention going? Are you achieving the result that the client is hoping to get to? But yeah, no, I think of course there's going to be variation, but you let me know if I didn't answer your question. I can provide a little more info from a scientist in the group. All right, thank you.
And know that you can just go to 3M VAS, Google up 3M VAS, and you'll learn a little bit more. You'll be able to play around with it. I think they give you 5 or 6 experiments at no charge. And you can honestly see now why it's so important in packaged goods, that you're walking down the chips aisle at the supermarket and think of all the different packages, think of all the different colors, the different fonts, the different shapes, and you have up to 3 seconds to attract the attention of that customer pushing the cart. It looks like we've got one more new one. Byron, let me see the plan. Okay, she'll check. Okay. And by the way, I think, I don't have the current price, but it's my recollection that the cost of VAS is very inexpensive. I think it's something like $49 or $50 a month, something like that. And it's well worth your while. And again, heavily used in website design as well. There are a couple more new ones here. Hold on for a minute. I have a question related to data analysis the VAS provides. Can you please share more regarding? Oh, we just did that. Hold on. Currently working on a kitchen remodel. Clients are not sure of the direction, and I would like to put these clients in front of their design using the software. Can we schedule a meeting, Byron? And that's from who is that from? That's from Sonia Golzar. So, Sonia, did you get
Byron's
email address when he showed you the slide? Byron,
you just put it in the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Yep. Happy to do that, Sonia. Thank you.
How do you come up with the percentages? The number of people in the study? That's for you, Byron.
This is where I'm a designer, not a scientist. I think, if I understand correctly, it is, when you think about the amount of contrast, the amount of focal points, it's really, there's a lot more going on in the math data side of this stuff. I don't think, I think every human has a different perspective. But again, what we're talking about is the average of people where things tend to go from a 92% per standpoint. So I think I will definitely ask that question, and I put it in a different chat on my work messenger. So hopefully, if you leave an email, I can send you back an answer, or you can email me that question, and then I can get back to you once I hear back from the scientists.
Okay, last call for questions. Any other questions? There's one more that was just added. Nope, I don't see it. All right. Well, listen, everybody. Thank you very much, and thank you, Byron, again. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on for a minute. There is one more. Out of curiosity, but probably a question for the developers, but how is VAS affected by color vision deficiency or tetrachromacy? Huh, that's better be for you, Byron, than me.
Oh my gosh. Super great question, Craig, and I applaud you for thinking in that way. I'm sure there's an answer that I can provide to you. Please do send me an email, and I will hunt it down, because that's what we do here. We get answers. So I'm happy to look into it for you.
Byron, when you get that answer to answer to any of these questions, if you could share them with me, and then I'll send it out with
Sure.
my follow-up email. I always do a follow-up email the next day. And so if anything you can get, if you could let me know, I'll send it to all of the attendees. All right.
Sounds good.
Hey, listen, Byron, thank you very much for giving us your time. And Craig says the scientist in me comes out sometimes. Thank you from Craig. All right, thank you, everyone. And one last thing, if you're interested in these other webinars that are coming up, go to scienceanddesign.com and click on webinars and sign up for the next one. All right, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to sign off now. Take care, Byron.
Thank you. Take care.